Now, the awkward part about self-soothing is that it can be challenging if we were never properly. Hi, I'm Cindy Shumaker, and I help people struggling with grief unpack and manage all their emotions with ease and grace. It's the middle of the night, and you're lying in bed, and your head is swirling with thoughts that are leaving you breathless. You literally feel like you can't breathe, and life is being sucked right out of you. You can't rest, you can't sleep, and in fact, you feel like you can't even go on. Everything's unclear right now. You feel like you are in this dense fog. Your sources of joy and suffering have collided into a big cesspool of emotions, and you feel like you're sinking in quicksand. You feel helpless. You know how to feel, but you can't put them into words. So how could you possibly begin to communicate those feelings to others? Sinking further into hopelessness. Life's been turned upside down, and now you're left in this aftermath to put it all back together, like a massive twister that comes through your neighborhood, shattering your cherished, comfortable, warm home into tiny fragments of the life you once knew and loved. Everything is different now. That is what grief feels like. Death, divorce, or terminal illness, all are variations of grief that fall under life's umbrella of these unwanted changes. Now, learning to self-soothe and calm ourselves in those situations is the kindest gesture we can do for ourselves. It lies right next to the core of love and can make a difference between not wanting to go on and having the desire to live. In the moment of emotional trauma, we must nurture ourselves as if we are a child being held, loved, and cared for by a parent. Now, the awkward part about self-soothing is that it can be challenging if we were never properly comforted by anybody else. Maybe you had an emotionally absent caregiver, or we were never taught how to use calming tools in our lives. In moments of crisis, we must find that voice inside of us that says, I will get through this. And it's that voice that will gently take your hand and guide you through the darkness until you see that little glimmer of light, which gives you a little glimmer of hope. When you can't articulate your needs to anyone else, or you truly feel all alone, you must rely on yourself to calm and self-soothe so that you don't continue to sink into that quicksand. So here are my favorite ways to do just that, and the ones that I have shared with my clients who are emotionally suffering. So when things are at their worst and you feel like you can't breathe, I want you to use the 3 by 3 by 3 rule. And how this works is you look around and you name 3 things that you see, then 3 things that you hear. Then you move 3 body parts, like maybe your fingers, your ankles, your arms, and you can mix these up by moving body parts while you look for 3 things and while you try to listen for 3 things. So get creative in how you mix these together and get the result that you want. And what this does, this helps you engage from negative feelings and emotions, and it brings your thoughts back into the present and lifts you out of that brain fog. The next one is hand over heart. So placing your hand over your heart with gentle pressure, and sometimes I'll even use both hands. And when we do this, the warm, safe touch of our hand on our heart center begins to activate the release of oxytocin, the brain's hormone of safety and trust, bonding and belonging, calm and connection. The next one is legs up the wall. So this is a restorative yoga pose that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and relaxation. So to try this pose, you just simply lie down on the floor with your legs up against the wall. And you hold that pose for up to 20 minutes or whatever feels comfortable for you. And if putting your legs up the wall feels uncomfortable, you can put your legs on a couch, a chair, or a bed. Or if even getting on the floor is uncomfortable for you, maybe you could lie in bed and put your legs up the headboard or whatever you can find that's comfortable for you. The next one is to journal. I want you to word vomit all your thoughts on a paper for a minimum of 20 minutes. Start writing and don't stop. I want you to set a timer. And when that timer goes off, stop writing, and I want you to meditate for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, most people know about meditation and how to do it, but if you've never done it before, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that'll teach you how, because in the very beginning, sometimes it feels awkward because you can't seem to rein your thoughts in, and it does take practice. And if you're worried that someone might find your journal, just write it on a piece of paper instead of in a book, and then just rip it up when you're done. That can be very symbolic of purging your feelings, and it really works wonders. The next one is tapping. Now, this is my favorite technique and the one that I've personally used for 14 years. And it involves physically tapping on acupressure points with your fingers. And I use this technique in 95% of my sessions with clients. And it works because it calms the fight or flight center of the brain. It also scrambles the message between the brain and the body, and it disrupts that mind-body connection. Let's go back to journaling for a second. Instead of meditating after journaling, if you are having challenges with that, I want you to read your journal back to yourself out loud if you can, and then just tap while you read it. I've used this myself many times, and it's very, very powerful. So as I'm reading, I'm just tapping on these acupressure points. And I have many tap along videos on my YouTube channel that demonstrate this. All right, and I have a bonus tip for you too. I want you to shut off the TV and shut off social media if you find your anxiety escalating after reading or listening to all the bad news. I want you to have zero tolerance for anything that robs you of your peace. We should be striving to calm ourselves in times of crisis instead of scaring ourselves. When we are scared and anxious, that this logical part of our brain shuts down and we slip into that fight or flight. And if there was ever a time that we needed to think logically and clearly and with clarity, it's during a crisis. So take it upon yourself to learn how to take control of your emotions so they don't take control of you. And these tips that I just gave you is a great place to start. And if you need guidance with any of this, this is what I'm here for. Just reach out to me. And most of all, please be patient with yourself and remember, you're never alone.